Welcome back to the Pregnancy Health Podcast. You're listening to Extend Web Services Marketing Minute Series, where we break down practical marketing tips for pregnancy health organizations. I'm your host, Delaney, manager of Extend Web Services, and today I'm joined by two fantastic, wonderful, talented members of our team, our web specialist, Monet, and our customer support specialist, Jennifer. We're talking all about your website, what it's really for, who it should be speaking to, and what your web specialist wishes you knew when it comes to branding, messaging, and making your site work for her, the woman who needs you most. Jen, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great.
Yeah, are you ready to tackle another podcast?
Ready to provide answers and help to all of our customers and those who aren't our customers yet.
That is really a good just snapshot of who you are, I think, as a customer support specialist, or maybe who you are as a human, Jen. You're like, I'm always ready to jump in and help.
I try. I enjoy it.
Great. Monet, I know we got you in, I think it was like your first week of work with Extend, or maybe your second week. We had you jump in on a question and answer that we were doing with Jack, but this is going to be your first full episode. How do you feel?
So excited. This is such a great resource to so many people. And yeah, I'm just thrilled to be a part of it.
Wonderful. Guys, I'm excited about our topic today. I know that we all have websites. I think we've gotten to the point where most people understand they do need a website, but there is still some confusion about websites and the purposes they serve, what they really accomplish. And I think today we can at least get a little bit of headway on answering some of those questions. So we're going to first look at some of the most common mistakes we see, trying to speak to everyone at once. This means having a website that is supposed to speak to your clients, your donors, your board members, your supporters, just whoever. Everything is all in the same mix. And I'm just going to put out a really simple question to you two. What is wrong with having a website, especially if you're a pregnancy health organization that tries to speak to everyone?
I think it's just super important to realize why you have that website. And your website definitely has a job. It's not to impress everyone, but it's really important to be connecting with that right woman. And sometimes when we overemphasize or we try to, please everyone who comes to our website, we really end up missing that person who's most important.
Yeah.
And as a pregnancy help organization, you have two very distinct audiences. They both fall under your ultimate mission and vision and your core values, but you have your audience who are your clients, the women and families, men that you're trying to get to come through the door so that you can serve them and meet them where they're at. And then you have your donors that are supporting your mission, your vision, and your core values through volunteering and donating and things like that. So I think that needs to be really, really, really clear.
Mm-hmm. Jen, you're totally right. It really does boil down to having those two distinct audiences, your clients and your donors, and then people like board members will fit into that donor side. Your client website, that, especially here at Extend, what you're going to find there we're really going to talk about those free services. We're going to talk about the information that man or woman is searching for. Maybe they're experiencing an unplanned pregnancy and they just want to know what their options are. They want to know about adoption. They want to know about abortion. They want to know about caring. You're really going to dive into those. Make sure that front and center, you are giving strong and clear calls to action that are saying free pregnancy test or get an ultrasound or what are my options? Whereas for a donor site, that clear call to action, you're not trying to get a donor to come in for a pregnancy test. You are trying to get them to buy in to what your mission is, to what you are doing in the community. And so you're going to be inviting them to be a part of it. And those are just two separate messages that I don't think they work well together on the same website. I know what I would say about them not working well together on the same website, but what do you guys think? When you have a very client-focused message and a very donor-focused message, how might those conflict?
No, I think it's so great. And that's one of my favorite services that we do encourage our customers to use is that client and that supporter website because, your website is like that front door and where our voice, that branding will remain the same no matter who you're speaking to. It does have a different message to each. And so being able to provide that landing page, just to be able to welcome each of those different people, whether it's, those clients or if it's your donors. I think that having that place of welcome in its own sort of way is very helpful and just will be able to build those relationships long term.
And having the two separate websites keeps either group from being confused. When you have a client site and there's information, you've told them that all of your services are free, and there's information on there about uh, donating or a gala that costs money or things like that, that can be really, really confusing for a client. And for our donors, sometimes they don't always understand why we need to put the content that we need to put on the client website. So it goes both directions for sure.
Yeah, Jim, that is totally true, especially on like looking at the client website and how a donor might feel about some of the content that's on it. Same thing for a donor website and a client, or a website that's speaking to both donor and client. And a client, they have an experience they're going through. They are wanting to utilize the services of the center, but that is so different than somebody being, announcing like, hey, another life was saved. Yes, another life was saved, but that is different. There's like a little bit of dissonance that happens there. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say there?
Oh, absolutely, Delaney. No, that's kind of really honestly what I was trying to get at in the beginning of the conversation. Whereas when you're trying so hard to reach everyone in one specific place, I think that's most important. When it's in one space, then it just gets so cluttered and it gets missed. And when it gets missed, you're not going to be connecting with the people you want to be connecting with. Yeah, makes a ton of sense.
I appreciate that, Monet. I do think another benefit of separating your site, especially when you have such distinct audiences as pregnancy help organizations tend to have, is you can really dive into a lot of subjects. So on your client side, you can dive into like the information that you need to provide on a variety of subjects for everywhere, everything from sexual health to abortion information to am I pregnant? And you can also dive into your free services, just everything that would have to do with that client experience, like maybe a pregnancy quiz. And then on the donor side, you can dive into really who we are, who our board of directors are, what kind of impact we've had in the community, how you can donate, how you can partner if you want to volunteer, what the different services look like, how it's positively impacting their community and even beyond. And I just feel like if it was all on one website, that's a lot of material. I feel like it'd be a little difficult to organize it in a way that makes sense and is clear and everybody can find the right pieces. So just aside from even making sure your messaging is good and it's not getting lost, like practically, it's a lot easier to organize all that stuff in separate websites.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I'm thinking too, I know a lot of times, you could be thinking, okay, well, what if a donor ends up on my client site? And what if my client ends up on a donor site and things like that, and how to connect them? And now they're in the wrong place. But there's definitely, just because it's not the main focus does not like mean that you can't include that information. It just shouldn't be on the front lines of your website. So for many of I know our client websites, we still end up having tabs and things like that for, hey, if you are actually a supporter and you're looking for that page, here it is. I mean, we're not hiding anything from anyone. It's very much there, but I love that because it definitely can connect people to the right place. It's not confusing. There's definitely a way to invite everyone to be a part. But I'm just thinking of that as well because I know that there's times where, a donor would go to the first site they find, and maybe that is the client site. So we can still connect those for them, those two sites together.
Yeah, and I honestly, my thoughts on it, and you guys might disagree, is I every single day, I'm going to choose that if one site is going to be stumbled upon before another, it's going to be your client site. Because I would rather a client find the information they need, or like a potential client find the information they need versus the donor. Because the donor could always give a phone call and just be like, hey, I'm trying to find out more information about donating or volunteering or something. Whereas the client, I want them to get that information as quickly as possible. I mean, we've even done things to suppress a donor's website. So, like, if somebody is typing in pregnancy tests, Cleveland, Tennessee, but their donor site keeps popping up, we've gone in and we've suppressed the site so that for Google, that's not the first site that pops up. It's more likely that their client site pops up. I know we said a lot of different words and ideas about client site versus donor sites and the importance of keeping them separated. But Monet, what is just, I don't know, a simple takeaway? What is the bottom line for this part of our talk today?
Look, I think that it would be when you're trying to please everyone, your message becomes very unclear, especially to the woman who needs you most.
Yeah. And I let kind of drilling down a little bit more into that messaging. That's kind of what I want to spend the next couple minutes on is branding and what does that look like on your website. I know Jen has mentioned it a couple times that your information on your client versus your donor website might be different, but the whole heart behind them can be the same. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about like what does branding look like on a website? What does that mean? Is it just a matter of is it your tone? Is it like the words you're using? Is it colors? Is it shapes? I don't know. What does branding look like on a website?
Yeah, I'll jump in here first. I think that kind of like what I talked about earlier is that branding is kind of your voice, right? And I do think that it goes beyond the way that your website looks. It absolutely has everything to do with how your website is going to feel. And that does come through. It comes through with your colors, it comes through with your images, whether they are, you know, someone's not going to feel a warm voice if you're seeing just a ton of stock images that look generic. But if they see something that looks maybe like them. They're gonna see get a warm a voice, a caring voice. So I think for sure, it's the colors, it's the images, it's the tone, it's the font, it's everything. It's the way like it totally encompasses their visit into your world, into your site. And we obviously want that to be a welcoming one. So that'll come through with those things.
So really, if you want to establish a certain brand, you have to know who your audience is, like who you're speaking to, and also what you're hoping to accomplish with that audience. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's so important too to be consistent. I mean, that's just consistency is key here, not to sound it's corny, but it is. And I think it's so important to make sure that you are, yeah, just giving that consistent messaging, that consistent tone throughout the entire site. And that really goes beyond whether that's your client or your donor site. I'm thinking through, we've kind of talked and discussed about it previously, just about how we can kind of yeah, we have all of our services on the website, but how we can kind of keep that from looking just like a flyer, but more of a welcoming source. So, of that front door, that first impression. And I think that's a great way to bring the two together is, yeah, you're going to have your services, but you want them to not just see, something that they can use or use and move on or different things like that. But really, they see it as a welcoming resource.
Yeah. And either one of you guys are welcome to jump in on this, but let's kind of look at the technical side a little bit. What are some subtle things that make a big difference, whether it comes to colors, fonts, photos? I know you touched on this a little bit, Monet. You'd mentioned the stock photos and how that could make it seem a little, I don't know, less. What word did you use?
I mean, I don't know what word I use, but I would definitely say personal. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
impersonal. And I think if you're not in it, then you don't realize what a big difference colors, fonts, and photos can make. But can you guys speak to that a little bit? Like how it really does impact someone when they're looking at it and how those three things, especially, and maybe other things as well, can make a huge difference in establishing your brand and building that trust.
I'll jump in quick because I know Jen has so much knowledge and she has great taste. So, but for me, yeah, I think definitely with the images, that's one that would just be a great way. But also, I think overcluttering for sure your website. We get so passionate. We want to, share so much with the people coming to our site. But what we can actually be doing is really kind of watering down the actual message or the actual resources we want those clients to be receiving. And so I do think that sometimes less is more, and it's not really less, it's just more focused. So
Yeah.
that's something that can be really helpful and more personalized too. You don't want somebody coming, if someone came to your door, you wouldn't start yelling at them. You would be welcoming them with, soft voices and just a kind conversation. And sometimes we don't realize it, but that's what we're doing when we overclutter that page.
Oh, yeah. Jen, do you have anything to add?
Just taking a soft and gentle approach to reaching the client when they're on the website, whether it be through the images, and encouraging and empowering her, helping her understand that she isn't alone and that you're right there with her and you're ready to come alongside her in choosing images. When we do the websites, we choose images that go along with that and go along with your center's demographic to make sure that that woman who is seeking that information on that website could see herself sitting in a room talking to one of your advocates.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I think you guys touched on a lot of great things. One, Money, when you talk about cluttered, it really makes me think of clarity. And you mentioned needing to have focus. So, focus and clarity goes back to what is the purpose of your site? What are you wanting them to do? Like, if your purpose of the site is, I want them to have information, then your site could look like a brochure and maybe even an overcrowded brochure. But if your purpose of, like, your, say, client site is to get a pregnancy test scheduled, then that's really like you need to keep that in the forefront when you are designing it. What information do they need? What information do they not need? What are things that they could be introduced to later as once they come in for that pregnancy test? So really having that focus and clarity on what your message is makes a huge difference, and I think does keep your site from becoming cluttered. Also, going to what Jen said, in terms of making them feel comfortable, having that warm, inviting presence, it is crazy how much fonts and colors can make a difference. If you have like a very aggressive or abrasive, like say bright red is great in certain circumstances. When you want to have a knockout dress or you are fighting bulls, but it's not always great if say your entire website is just this bright red color. As much as I enjoy the color red, if I were to jump on a site, unless it's Valentine's Day, it's going to feel abrasive. And then the same thing with fonts. There are certain fonts that are so fun or they're really good highlight fonts, but if the entire website were this font, it would be difficult to read. It might be give off I don't know, a certain feeling. For example, no one would ever do this, but what if the chiller font was used on a website? If you got onto a website and you saw that and it wasn't for some kind of like haunted house, I would immediately be creeped out. So it's crazy how much font and color can really make a huge difference.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that that's what's so helpful too about having a team being able to help
Mhm.
you with a project like this, and because I know that we even, if it's just me, that's why I love working with other people because there's times where like maybe yeah, you said you love the color red and you think this looks great because I love it. But then having that kind of other people to work with and realize like how they perceive it because we are trying to connect, especially I mean, yes, with younger families, younger women, sure, but I think sometimes what we see is something that we really like could be very much could be that trigger font like you're talking about to other people. So Yeah, I just think it's always great to have a team to be able to always stay relevant, always be asking questions. Okay, how does this look to you? What are you seeing? Or am I missing something? Um, what do you think, Jen?
I completely agree. We want for the website to match what she needs, and to match what the donor needs too. And sometimes that means making things a little bit different, tweaking a little bit on the client site versus the supporter site. Like we said, the donor or the supporter site, it's a different audience and there's going to be different needs. And there will be things that will be the same because we want to stick with our branding. But there might be other areas where we need to tweak just to make sure that we're achieving that goal of having a different audience for each site.
So, bottom line, and we've covered a bunch of topics, branding isn't about being flashy. It's not about shoving everything about yourselves on a website. It's about building trust. It's about being consistent. It's about establishing that emotional connection as fast as you can and giving them clear, focus next steps. In our final section, I just thought it would be really fun to talk with you guys about things you've seen from the quote unquote help desk. Let's talk real life examples. What are some patterns or pitfalls you've seen across sites that you wish more pregnancy help organizations understood? Jen, I feel like you have some already locked and loaded. What are some things that have worked well? What are some things that don't work the best, even if they sound good in theory?
Well, this goes along with what I've kind of repeatedly said, so you kind of know where I stand on this. But if you have a combined client and supporter site and it's not, you don't have a separate site for each one, whether it's for budget reasons or whatever, having a website like that, normally we could make, if we do that for you, we can have a tab that says like partner with us or something like that under about us and have it not be like, like right front and center. But there are times where we're asked to put a walk for life banner right in the middle of a client website page where right below it talks about her pregnancy options and
Right.
pointing her to her pregnancy options and taking her to an options page where she's given information about her options. So if she is considering abortion and she sees a Walk Her Life banner on the home page right as she's landing on there, how long do you really think she's going to stay on your website?
Yeah,
I would
that's
say
true.
probably not a real long time. So it's super important to keep that separate, to not have it like right on the homepage. Same thing with like a building campaign or like a capital campaign or something right in the center of the client homepage.
Mm. Yeah. And if you have, say, with Extend, you have a client website and you just do not have it in the budget to have a separate supporter site, we can work with you on that and, work with you so that you have specific landing pages that you could send donors. And so instead of just sending them to your website, maybe it is walkingwithyou.com/building fund. So it's a very easy, simple URL and it's not across your homepage where maybe you would send some of those mixed messages to the client going to your page.
Right. We can make like a hidden, it's even like a hidden page where it doesn't even show up, or we can put it in a tab that's like underneath about us or something like that. And when it's a hidden page, we provide you with the link and you can provide that to your donors and they can go there unlimited. But the only people who have that URL are the people that you give it up to. So there are definite workarounds, like Delaney said, and we're happy to help you with that for sure. We understand pregnancy help budgets.
I'm going to hop on real quick before Jen either tells another thing that she likes or dislikes. And then we go to Monet. Just jumping on what Jen said, I think it's really important to, again, know what the purpose of your client site is, and then to make sure everything is working to accomplish that goal. So one of the things I've seen on a lot of sites is maybe logos that have pregnant women in them. That one right there, there's so many beautiful logos, but that if you're really looking to help that abortion-minded, abortion vulnerable client, then that could be a real turnoff for them. or somebody who has had an abortion in the past and they're looking at potentially getting another one, that could be really triggering for them to see a logo like that. So I think we have a lot of beautiful logos out there, but they may not be the best for your client site. That's actually one of the reasons Extend has these stock templates or stock logos, just because we understand you've got a great logo, but maybe it's not the best for your client site. Is there something we can use just for that client site?
Right, Delaney, because it can still be in your branding colors. It can still match with the feel, the tone, the font, all of the things that you have for your center, but meet the need better for your client site.
Jen, Monet, what is another like thing that's really great or a pitfall that you've seen?
Well, that's where honestly, I'll jump in because that's what you were just kind of touching on is what I was going to add because I think sometimes you're excited to welcome someone to your site. You're excited to have them come to your center, but sometimes I've noticed that they can quickly become more about who you are than
Right.
giving them the space to talk about who they are and meeting them where they're at. And I'm kind of cheesy when it comes to, the way I speak, but like I'm thinking about you would never ask someone how they're doing and then just talk about yourself the whole time. You would give them space to introduce themselves, to come in and be comfortable. So I definitely think that's important, especially on your homepage. And then this one is super minute in comparison to I think Jen just kind of nailed it with hers. Um, but sometimes over bolding. I know that sounds ridiculous, but sometimes on a site, we're so excited to share a message with someone, and you want them to kind of it has emphasis, right? But sometimes when we just go ahead and we bold everything on that site, once again, it's gonna get lost. Like I said, that's a little one, for sure. But I do think, when everything is important, then nothing is important. And um, so I'd add that.
Something that I think is really good before I volley it over to Jen is we, at least at Extend, our customers receive a free redesign every 2 years. It's just built into their website package. I love it when centers not only take us up on that opportunity, but like are excited about it. So looking to see what templates do we have out, and we just released 2 new ones, Haven and Aspen. What templates do we have out? How can they add their information to the sites? What is it going to look like? They're just excited. What will their brand colors look like on this template? The reason I like that they're taking advantage of it, other than clearly they're an active customer and we love active customers, is by taking advantage of those templates, their sites stay modern. We have created great templates over the years, but they look like the time. And I think it's really important, and Monet might be able to speak to this a little bit more, for websites to constantly looking at like what is popular, what is in now, what is going to look like it's going to fit into the landscape. Like say an 18 to 25-year-old is looking at your website. Is it something that looks current? Is it something that looks modern? Or will they be kind of caught off guard by it, like kind of looking maybe older?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I think that's one of the most exciting parts about, technology in general. And something that we kind of are now more accustomed to. I definitely think we're more used to the idea that things are constantly changing. But another piece too is, as your site is aging, so are the women that are looking at your page. So, maybe you're reaching someone who is 28, but well now they're in their 30s, or that shift happens as well. And so we always need to be looking back to, okay, who is who are we serving, because and what are they interested in, because that's shifting, yeah, just as fast as technology is.
Yeah.
When you were talking, Delaney, I kept thinking about you were talking about the redesigns, and you were talking about keeping up with you know the client and the changes in websites. And I kept thinking of a particular website that we had not that long ago that they recently did a redesign, and the other website had the same type of content. But oh my goodness, when I look at the new website and I see it now, it just has such beautiful, more soft approach. Their branding didn't change. The colors didn't even change that much. Maybe the hues changed a little bit, but it's just so different now. So, taking advantage of those redesigns, or if you don't, if you don't have your website with us, getting a website with us, it just, I can't even begin to speak to how much of a difference it makes and how she's looking for that.
Mhm.
She wants something gentle and soft, not shouting her when she comes onto the website, referring back to something Monet said, over bolding and things like that. So
Yeah.
I definitely wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, and, honestly, I mean, obviously, if you're not a customer with Extend, we'd love to have you. However, wherever you're at, whether you're doing something in-house or you're working with somebody else, if it's been, I don't know, 2, 3, 5, 6 years since you updated your website, now is the time. You can sometimes get away with it for, like, 2 years, like, if it's 2, 3 years, okay, but if it's been 4, 5, 6, 7 years since your last website redesign, it's probably a good time, and by probably mean it is a good time to work with whoever it is in-house that's doing it, a volunteer, an agency, Extend, whoever it is, it's time to update your website. Okay, guys, we've got a couple more minutes. Did either one of you guys wanna share another, like, pet peeve or, like, thing that you're really happy about when you see it on a website, things that work really well?
Having those action items,
Yeah.
I think Delaney mentioned that at least once, but it's worth mentioning again. Having, clearly this is how you contact us. This is how you this is how you schedule an appointment, and making sure that that information and even the beginning of the information that they're looking for is on the homepage, even if it's not all of the
Mm.
content, making sure that the beginning of that, and you will find that with our newer templates, the WordPress templates. I think you'll love them if you check them out. They're, and I'm not just saying that because I work here, but, being in pregnancy help for a lot of years now, I love that the information or the beginnings of the information that she is looking for is right there on the homepage. And all she has to do is click and there she's right there. So that was just my little
Yeah.
piece that I wanted to
I
add.
I appreciate it, Jen, and I'm gonna pop on over at Monet. What is your final word, the final thing that you want people to take away from this conversation?
Okay. Big task here. Um, no, I think that, we've talked about it with your branding. We've talked about, the different people that come to your site. I think that no matter who comes to your site, I think it's just really important that your voice should remain the same. And
Mhm.
like Jen has touched on, that it should be a welcoming, soft, um, non-judgmental voice that they're welcomed with first. And I think that plays right into then what Jen says, because once they're there, then give them, you know, don't make them work for it. It should
Right.
just be a simple task. They have enough going on where just to make it as simple and as welcoming as possible will go beyond anything that I think you could do. You don't need the most high tech or just anything. I think it's just a simple, welcoming voice will go a long way on your website.
Nice. I think we've had a great conversation today, and I hope that people listening that this has had a good impact on you. If this has got you thinking about your own website, or if you're feeling a little overwhelmed by the idea of making it stronger, we can help. Reach out, schedule a consult, or explore the support options we offer at extendwebservices.com. We're here to help you. Send us an email at support@extendwebservices.com and we'll get the conversation going. Thank you so much for your time.